was abused, and the one thing that those people said, you better never say a word. So it started there, to keep quiet, shove it under the rug. I carried this shame that I couldn't talk about, I couldn't tell anyone about. Tried to keep it together at a very young age on the outside, when on the inside I was dying. And so I never thought that I would have a happy home, never thought that I would deserve the kind of love that my heart desired. You know, we always think, once upon a time in the happily ever after. I never dreamed that that would be mine. And so when I met Aaron, I told him enough about my story for me to somewhat sleep at night, but he knew very little about where I had been and what had happened to me, and how the shame that I carried. I was damaged goods, and therefore my life didn't matter. And so after about 2 years of marriage, of just pure torment from the enemy, taunting me, look at you traveling around in this world-renowned ministry, and your husband doesn't even know who you are. On one end, he's telling me, you can't ever tell him, because what will they think of you? And on the other end, look at you, because you won't tell them, they don't even know who you are. It was this constant torment. And so I screamed out to God after about 2 years of marriage, and I said, God, if you don't do something in my life, I will walk. I will leave, because abandonment and all of this stuff that I so feared, I told God, I said, I would rather walk, because when he finds out, he'll walk, and I don't want to be the one left standing. And so after screaming that out to God, I walked off our bus. My job was to kind of man the product table at that point, because nobody knew I sang. And so this lady came up to this product table in Central City, Kentucky, and we had never met her, didn't know her. And when she came up, she stood in front of me and she gasped, and she put her hand over her chest and she said, can I speak with you? And I said, sure. And so she said, we need to go somewhere private. Well, this was an outside event. And so we found ourselves that night behind a nursing home on an embankment. That woman told me everything about my life that I had never spoke to another human being, only the things that God and I knew. And when she did that, I laid in that woman's lap as she just stroked my hair for 2 hours. And I cried like I don't think I will ever cry again in my life. And after 2 hours, she said, now that you have emptied yourself of all of that junk, I'm going to pray that God's presence fills every crevice and every crack. And that day, God supernaturally changed my life forever. That night, God saved my marriage. That night, God saved the children that I had not even given birth to yet. The power of God was so real, and I really didn't even know what I was experiencing. I was raised in a non-denominational church, but we didn't practice that. But it was so real and so tangible that when Aaron, they were looking for me, I came around that corner. This is where he can tell you that I was he knew I was different.
There was a total, her countenance had changed. You know, she knew God, but I could tell God had visited her in a different way. And I mean, all she wanted to do was pray with people. I mean, she came up and just wanted to pray with everybody she could. And I could tell, and you know, just the whole process when we got home, and she would be in her prayer closet, literally in her closet, and shutting her door and just allowing God to minister to her.
I took Matthew 6:6 as my verse, but that when thou prayest, enter into thy closet. And that was my place that God met me, and I didn't pay money for counseling. I didn't sit and tell another human being. He was the teacher of all teachers, and he taught me that he loved me and that I was worthy of love. And it was about 6 months before I fully shared the story with my husband, because I wanted God to completely help me how to do this. And when I did, my husband was Christ to me. He loved me as Christ loved the church, and he wrapped his arms around me. And he said, why in the world would you ever think I couldn't love you? That was not your shame. He was Christ to me that night. And as we sat, I'll never forget it, we were in our bathroom floor, and we just were weeping and crying. I'm like, why did I wait so long?